Splashdown is a sight to behold. Fantastic and wonderful and terrific, and I'm thrilled to see it. All rational people are thrilled to see these two astronauts make it back to the United States. Take it back. Make it back to planet Earth after being left in space to see Butch Wilmore, as he is known, and Suni Williams, after 9 months, get back to Earth. And there are a series of stories going around about this, that somehow they were not abandoned in space. They weren't just left in space. And you have Mark Kelly. Actually, I take this back. Scott Kelly, the brother of astronaut and Senator Mark Kelly, saying, my gosh, they were never just stranded in space. That's a silly thing to say.
I was watching your previous program, The Five. And they're talking about abandoned and they were stranded by President Biden. That is not true. They have had a spacecraft up there since September that was going to bring them home. They've always had a ride home, and the decision to keep them up there had nothing to do with politics. It was just the fact that you need crew members to operate the space station, and they were the two that were there, and you had to send up a vehicle with 2 empty seats. So the safest thing to do was to just leave them there. But they weren't stranded. They always had a ride home. Now,
that is, with all due respect, because I would never question the man when it comes to space travel. But the idea that they weren't stranded because there was a vehicle there is so insulting to rational people. What did it matter if the car was there if your parents said you couldn't drive it? What did that take? All of 4 seconds as I check my vonreist.com time? What does it matter that there was a capsule there if NASA said you can't use it? You can't come home. So the very concept of stranded, I would argue, is accurate.
They were only supposed to be there for 8 days. So to answer your question, yeah, it's mentally challenging to go on a mission where you think it might be 8 days. You know, it could be longer because it's the first flight of a vehicle, and sometimes there are problems. And NASA made the right choice to keep them up there longer. And that could be tough mentally. But I've known Butch and Suni before we were all any of us were astronauts, and they're very experienced naval aviators, test pilots. And even though it might have been a challenge, I'm sure they rose to the occasion, just like many astronauts would do, if not all. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure they're really happy to be home.
I do not believe that a single person questions whether or not these two are tough as steel. I don't believe anybody questions that at all, in any way. The idea that that someone would think that these two were weak and they needed rescue and they couldn't handle it. That's I don't think anybody in America is saying that. What we're saying is that it seems rather obvious that it was political that they were not brought back. That seems very, very clear that it was political, the reasons that they were not returned. And a lot of people got political, and a lot of people got super, super nasty. For example, the whole team at MSNBC. You may not remember this. I absolutely remember this. That there was Michael Steele on MSNBC. I think this is the right clip. Mocking, along with Simone Sanders, Elon Musk, because in one of the tests of his rockets, it had exploded. There were two of them that had exploded in one after another, not the same day, but a few weeks after each other. The booster is still caught but exploded, and some flights were delayed, and people were angry. Is do I have this right? Is this the right part of him?
And work that out, and leave those of us who do government to do government.
There it is. This was Michael Steele. He formerly was in charge of the GOP. He used to be the chair of the Republican Party.
My suggestion for Elon, his response to all of this was rockets are hard. And Mr. Musk, if they're so hard, why don't you go back to your day job and work that out, and leave those of us who do government to do government, because you can't do both. And clearly you're failing right now at both. Your rocket.
Elon Musk is the reason these two astronauts are back as quickly as they are. I thought that was one of the most disgusting and despicable and low rent and low class statements to ever be made. The very concept that we would say to people, if it's too hard, don't do it. We don't do that in America. We don't say that in America. It's hard and we do it and we overcome. And that's the message you want to put out there. And you want Elon to be successful. You don't want him to fail. You hate him so much politically that you want him not to be able to have rockets that work. Do you know how gross that is? Do you know how gross Michael Steele is? I mean, this is standard operating procedure for the kind of people they put on MSNBC. I mean, they could change, but then again, who's watching anyway? And eventually, where's that network going to be? At least CNN has a fighting chance with Scott Jennings at they're making the primetime hours worthwhile. What a despicable and awful thing to say. What an awful human being. And now the question is, Michael Steele, where's the apology? Because look what he did. Look what that team did. Look what a big vision, a big thought, a big philosophy did. Not your small ball, Michael Steele. Not your cheap nonsense with the worst advice. You want to talk about advice you should never give your kid? There it is. It's hard, so don't do it. No, any parent who gives that advice, that's a parent who sucks. Just straight up trash. And this was Michael Steele, and they're kind of like laughing about it over there. They think it's great. Then there's the idea of whether or not Joe Biden did not make a move to return these astronauts after the Boeing Starliner failed, and it failed magnificently. Whether or not he didn't ask Elon Musk because he didn't want to be seen giving Elon the win. I'm not sure what one does with that information. We're talking about people's lives, and I'm going to discuss more of this. And I will. We're talking about people's lives here. You're worried about political win. This is when you're worried about politics? Good Lord. You know, there's a story in here that has more to do, that is more than just about these astronauts returning home. And it has to do with how broken people are. Broken in every way. When you look at these kinds of reactions, you can't cheer Musk for bringing people back home. You can only key a Tesla or set them on fire or sit there and cheer, right? Because the stock price has gone down, and you play this ridiculous Tim Waltz nonsense.
saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping. So, and if you own one, we're not blaming you. You can take dental floss and pull the Tesla thing off, and take out, just telling you.
That's a guy who's created nothing going after the guy who creates things. That's standard. You hear that and you're like, my gosh, Atlas Shrugged is a really good book. It's a broken society. It's broken when you take a look at innovation and you say, how dare you? It's broken when you see success and you're angry about it. Is Elon Musk a conservative? No. Elon Musk is not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination. And to think otherwise is, to me, surreal. Do I appreciate the purchase of Twitter, now X, Twitix, as I call it, and allowing for people to engage freely? You better believe I do. Do I appreciate all the people who now have jobs at SpaceX and this desire to get to Mars and what it has clearly already done in terms of letting the country see what is possible and actually helping people with their lives? Yeah, I'm overjoyed. Overjoyed by seeing it. Isn't that what the rational person does? Sure, you can hate electric vehicles. And sure, you could be upset with Elon Musk for utilizing a system better than you did in order to be able to get the subsidies or whatever else he got to make the electric vehicles. But is there any question that jobs were created? Is there any question that he created a car that people actually wanted, that worked? Is there any question he quite literally created the ugliest truck in the history of mankind and got people to say, you know what? That is so ugly. It's fantastic. I'm going to take 3. The Cybertruck is the French bulldog of cars. Or would that be the pug? The thing doesn't make sense. It can hardly breathe. It is unbelievably unattractive, but if you stare at it long enough, you just want it to lick your face. Good gosh. He did this. He created this. He built this. He said, I have a vision. He got people to go along with him. He got the money and he did the thing. You don't like his politics. That's one thing. You don't appreciate what he's done. That's nutty. That is broken. When you can't even appreciate what's been done, you're broken. You're lost. You have no center. You have no core. You have no philosophical basis for your existence other than hate. And that can't be a way to live. As we see chargers on fire, the electric car chargers on fire. As we see the cars being keyed and vandalized and set ablaze. Right? It's really the cars that are set ablaze, not the chargers. But you see the chargers there in the photos at the service centers. Cars set on fire. It's ugly stuff. It is ugly to watch and ugly to witness. These people are broken. And my only advice to you at this stage of the game is don't be. They could choose the way they live. You do not have to choose to be like them. The world is crazy, but you do not have to be. These people are broken. And while I would argue don't be like them, also understand that broken people do dangerous things. And on this, we all got to be watching out. I'll have more on that. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today.